He's up late to give you the news you can't get anywhere else early. He fights for truth and justice and the American way. Please welcome our pal from the Paragon Trust Company, the real Tony D. Tony D'Angelo.
All right, here we go. Each and every Tuesday morning, we bring on our very good pal, Tony D'Angelo. And, of course, you can find him on the X, Tony D'Angelo 7 on Thursdays. He unleashes his own YouTube show, which is a great thing. And you got to check it out for sure. If you haven't, you should check it out each and every Thursday for sure. But for now, join us right here. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee Elci. Good morning, everyone, and proud to be among you.
All right. I appreciate everything, as always. And, Tony, you're kind of wanting to go after some of the things that I was going after this morning today, and by accident, actually. So take it away.
Well, that's how home runs are hit, right? I mean, if I were the devil, okay, let's start with that. And again, good morning. I'd move to Connecticut, frankly. I had one of these, I don't know, you call them come to Jesus moments. I call them revelations. On Saturday, I was running around for my wife. She had a family party on Sunday. So, of course, when you do that, there's obligatory, not one, not two, but 3 trips to the store. Fellas, if you want to find out what marriage is, I can tell you. But anyway, on my 3rd trip, okay, and I'm not saying this to be, make fun of anybody. I started to head down the driveway. This is the Price Chopper in Putnam. And to my right, there are 2 younger women. Now, younger, I'd say if they were 30, I would be incredibly, incredibly surprised. And I'm not saying this to be a nasty guy or to poke fun. They are, Lee Elci, they are as big as houses. I mean, it's sad. It's pitiful. One of them, it has so much weight, she cannot stand up. Now, they're loading food into an SUV, which is a relatively new model SUV. Heck of a whole lot newer than, my old Black Beauty. And she's frustrated. It's like, we didn't get the boogity boop. Go in the store and get the boogity boop. And the other one, who's of equal size but is able to walk, says, I'm going in the store to get the boogity boop. And I'm saying to myself, my Lord, this is so sad because on observation's sake, okay, if you have the 2 of them, maybe toss in another, you're approximating my own age. They're never going to be able to work. You shouldn't say never. They're never going to be able to do anything productive. Their pleasure in life is quite obvious. And I started to do some numbers. Okay, what does it cost for this? Well, first of all, this is not something that happens in and of itself. You need a cast of thousands. In Connecticut, you got them. Who's in on this thing? 4 to 10 professionals. Doctor, pharmacist, mental health professional, social worker, case manager. I'm not making fun of that, except why does it always result in failure? And so maybe the direct costs here are about $35,000 per young woman. Now, these are people that should be learning how to produce, how to work. If they live, which really is questionable, upon observation, they should be able to, lead long and fruitful lives, but they're not. What kind of lives do they have? And, it kind of leads you to something else. I haven't even begun to, calculate the administrative costs. I mean, that would probably run off the computer. And why, and I think to your point this morning, if I were the devil, why the hell in this country, especially in the state in Connecticut, I know we have people watching from other states and listening, we keep championing the lowest common denominator. I mean, and the other thing I'll leave you with that is this, or, as Nixon would say, let me say this about that. If you walk into a market or any kind of a public venue, it's amazing to me that the people in their 50s and 60s are in far better physical condition, especially the women, than the women who are in their 20s and 30s. So it's like, and the more you spend on these things, we're going to look at that in a second, the worse it gets. And that's just my first thought.
So I was funny that you bring all that up. So I was at a Walmart the other day, and Tony, I bet you, I was in there for maybe 10 minutes. I bet you I saw a dozen people on those motorized scooters, too fat to get up and
Too
walk
fat to
around and go.
walk.
I mean, you got to be. And I'm glad you brought this up. Now, again, please, I'm not talking about people who truly need those, but if you've eaten yourself into a situation where you have to ride around on a scooter, that's not my problem. And I shouldn't have to spend money on that. And Tony, if you're gonna go down that road too, alcoholism. Being an alcoholic is not a disability. You've chosen that. You have to break that. That shouldn't go on society. We can help you in the beginning, but you can't help you for decades. I mean, I think you're on to something, and please just continue. I just wanted to
Okay.
throw my 2 cents in.
Now, again, and this is the whole thing. I think if you talk about the one big beautiful bill, and we've been around and around and around. I go to a seminar today. How about that? Where this would fail, really, where the one big beautiful bill would fall flat on its face is, we hear about workforce housing. Guess what? We ain't got no damn workforce. These people can't work. Anyway, simple as that.
Right.
Just
You're right.
let's move on. Drug addiction, right? Again, we have a cast of thousands. How many bureaucrats? How many social workers? How many nonprofits? Drug addiction funding increased in this state 50 million from 2015 to 2025. Now, the funding for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services increased by 100 million. Guess what we got? More drug addicted people, right? How about that?
Right.
Domestic violence, right? Reading back to Bob Swick's article in February, we spent $27.63 million in domestic violence in 2024. Our increase is 5.6 million. The charities are stable. Actually, I kind of ran off the page here on drug addiction. The drug addiction charities increased, their nonprofits increased by 20. What do we have? More drug addiction and more domestic violence. Is there something wrong with this picture? Alcoholism, all right? You want to do alcoholism. Direct funding, right, for nonprofits in Connecticut, 50 million increase, 2015 to 2025. The charities increased by about 20. Every time you do this, you got more bureaucrats, you got more, you have more people who become this part of a gargantuan problem. No one is a part of the freaking solution. And look, you want a cherry on top of the ice cream, on top of the sprinkles, on top of everything else. Every single organization, be it existing or be it new, has an executive director, right? Has some crony, has some quote unquote functional nonprofit, and nonprofit incompetent in most cases, making about $150,000 a year. And I mean, and this is the whole thing. When it's like we have this thing of, oh, what about the compassion? What about all this other stuff? What about, how dare you're cruel, Angelo? Well, listen, what's cruel is those girls in the parking lot. That's what's cruel. That's the meal that you're eating in the restaurant after all this took place. And that's really just my opener.
No, I think you're on to it 100%. I think America needs to recognize that, and they haven't. We've become complacent. We've become, over the top forgiving for some of this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, you may have an issue, you may have an eating disorder, what have you. And I know we're just pointing at that now, but there are others, like you had mentioned, drug addiction or even homelessness, which drug addiction leads to the homelessness, but they're all sort of on the same plate, so to speak, pardon the pun. But these folks have put themselves in these positions. And how much does it cost, as you mentioned, the health care for somebody who's not working, yet they're 300 pounds and they're 4'10"? What's the health ramifications for that?
Incalculable.
Yeah, exactly.
Incalculable.
It's like you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe per year per person, to keep them alive because they decided to eat themselves into a position where they can't work. And I'm sorry, do you think overeating to the point where you can't work it should be a burden on America? I mean, it's insane to think that.
Well, look at it this way. If you have an endeavor, right? You showed up today for a job. I showed up to be honored to be a participant and a contributor on the show. Guess what? I didn't beat my wife last night. I didn't drink. I didn't shoot up. I didn't threaten my neighbor with a shotgun. You know why? Because you talk about the devil, right? An idle mind is the devil's workshop. Now, I may have no mind, but at least it's not idle. I mean, this is simple beans, and it's like I'm so tired of it. Okay, we can move on a little bit if you want.
Well, I just want to say. I just also want to say one thing. I'm not saying that there's an avalanche of this. You know, you see this here and there. It's not like everybody fits into that category. But I'll tell you one thing, Tony. A lot more fit into that category today than they did 10 years ago, and certainly 30 years ago.
Well, it's interesting, you know, and I realize as the window closes on. I was listening to Bobby Kennedy yesterday. He was on TV with Brooke Rollins. They were being interviewed by Larry Kudlow. And he said, what people don't get about this, you know, funding train to nowhere is this. Take my girls in the parking lot of the Price Chopper in Putnam. They will need, because of their existing physical condition, they're going to need, to your point, increasing health care, increasing support as they get older. It's not going to get any better. And he said, if I can't get this thing straightened out now, if I can't get diet to improve, if I can't get exercise to improve, if the spending's all going to go out for those people who at that point are really going to be something beyond a train wreck, guess what, guys? There ain't going to be any money there for them. You know, is Tony, that the result you want?
I've done a whole monologue and almost half a show on this before in the past. I mean, you made me think about this again. So I just did a quick Google Gronk search, actually. So $51 billion is what we spend each year for homelessness in the United States, right? According to this, we have 771,000 homeless people in the United States. That's $66,000 per person. $66,000 per homeless person. I mean, you could literally build these people a home, right? I mean, it's cheaper to build them a home somewhere. I don't know.
How many bureaucrats, how many tax dollars? And I mean, you could say, you could make the argument that, oh, we need this to support people. I mean, it ain't getting any better.
It's every year, too. It's every year.
It increases. It increases, and they cry the poor mouth. Now, when the budgets were presented in Hartford, okay, and you know, whoever's watching from whatever state, God bless you, thank you, welcome. The both the Republicans and the Democrats said, we're not going to, cut the funding of nonprofit. I mean, are you guys freaking brain dead? Do you see what happens here? Do you do you sit there with a radiator in a car with a hole in it, and you just keep pouring water in, and sooner or later it's going to stop? I mean, everything has its limit. Everything has, it has to be. You don't fix anything by feeding it if the problem doesn't improve and worsens. I mean, how difficult is that? I guess it's too difficult.
Tony D'Angelo is with us. Tony D'Angelo 7 on the X, and of course the great YouTube show, which will pop on Thursday. All right, what's next, Tony?
Okay, we talk about, and this is the whole thing. The political system, especially in Connecticut, wants for you to trust them and trust their perspective. If you want to have one of those moments of wanting to shoot out your computer screen, I was reading, this is the Hartford Courant on Sunday, Kevin Reddy article about this is how the bread is buttered in this state. The $300,000 went missing from a nonprofit. Now, the nonprofit is called the Hartford Blue Hills Civic Association. It's been around for 63 years. It employs about 300 people. The salary line is enormous. What they do, I don't know, but it's not like anything. It is a constant recipient of funds. The funds are administered by our lovely Department of Economic and Community Development, who in this case does not really develop anything. It functions as a welfare institution to fund this nonprofit. Now, query, Lee Elci, if you're going to fund a nonprofit, why do you need a bureaucracy to fund the nonprofit? Can you get the hell over with the bureaucracy and just fund to the nonprofit? But anyway, that's just part of the problem. Mr. Rennie awards this one employee who makes $121,000 a year, who says, well, we've given this Blue Hill Civic Association to 5 million, 5.5 in the 24 budget year, and then we gave more money in another year, and it's like there's 12.1 million over a case of 2 years. Do you think there's a problem? We better start. I mean, this is like, Hero, this is like the person after all the horses have left the barn is like, do you think we ought to keep this one horse here? I mean, this is the way the thinking goes on. And this, you should know about this, people. And it's like, so what happens is the Blue Hill Civic Association gives $300,000 to a group called My People Hartford. Wire transfer doesn't go through. So what do? This is your fiscal control in Connecticut. Hey, you want to run for governor? You want to deal with these questions? I'm going to be asking them. Send another $300,000. Why not? Well, $300,000 is missing. And I mean, does anybody look at this and say, hey, it's like this dog, to invoke Ross Perot, does not hunt, does not work. So it's like, well, we're going to shut down the funding, and now we can't pay these people. So it's like, okay, you're employing 300 people and you're spending all this money, and you have this organization, the Department of Economic and Community Development, who, according to the Deputy Commissioner, Matt Pugliese, we don't provide grant recipients with instructions on what to do with their grants. God help us all. And I mean, this is the type of thing that goes on, I think, to the point, going back to the girls in the park, we just throw out money. We just make problems bigger. We don't constructively fix one, I won't say the word, thing. Now, the salary line, again, if you've got, now I just looked at this, right? This thing's been going on for 63 years. If you're looking at where money gets wasted, well, guess what? You look at your expenses. 2021, your salaries are 58% of your revenue, of your gimme revenue. 2023, 52%. I mean, like, hey, are you helping, or are you just employing people? And it's like, do you have the running gear to see what's happening here? Now, it goes on. If you want more aggravations, there was an article yesterday, Hartford Current. There's a gentleman here called, his name is Art Feldman. He is the executive director of International Hartford. And he says, if you get rid of illegal immigration, you're going to destroy the Connecticut economy, because there ain't going to be anybody to work. Well, no, Mr. Feldman, there ain't going to be anybody to work because you got those girls sitting in the parking lot in Putnam. Exactly. It's like, right. How hard is this? And it's like, well, and again, the inside out of that is, if this state is so economically decrepit, which in fact it is, we've got to depend on illegal immigration to make it run. I mean, didn't we have something called slavery? I mean, it's like weren't the slaves freed? Listen, don't mind me, and I don't drink. But anyway, yeah. So it's like, listen, this is where the acuity level is sitting. And guess what? Every week I get an email, you probably do too, from Joe Courtney. And Joe Courtney is running around saying, well, Trump is making people hungry. Trump is going to he's destroying the farm to table funding, if you will. And, this is a terrible thing. And I say to myself, and this is the thing, maybe I asked Joe Courtney to think, it's like, hey, man, you're in Congress, right? You have resources. Can you figure out a way to get the food in the farms to the people, like these poor girls, and, maybe teach them proper nutrition? But no, you just sit there and you cry the poor mouth. And this is the thing. I am so tired of people crying the poor mouth, and somehow the poor mouth gets bigger, and somehow the addiction gets bigger, and somehow the domestic violence gets bigger. This fixes nothing. Who is the person? Oh, yeah, I'll leave you with this. I realize we're running out of time. Remember Wallet Hub? Wallet Hub was that survey organization that thought Ned was wonderful and everything in Connecticut was great. Well, George Colley had tweeted this last night, and I felt it was worthy of mention. They did a new survey, best and worst run cities in America. And it's like, et tu, Ned. Some of the worst. Hartford they did 150, right. 148. Hartford, 147th worst. New Haven, 143rd worst. And I think Bridgeport was maybe in the middle. I mean, right. It's like, It's scary if something doesn't change. That's basically it. And, wherever you are, thank you for being here and watching. And this is a big problem. And if America can't work, America can't succeed.
Tony D'Angelo 7 on the X. Tell everybody what to expect on Thursday, Tony.
Oh, probably more of
All
this.
right.
And we've got our fun times. I reviewed a movie I really didn't like too much. I'm going to tell you about that, and then
All right.
we've got some incredible music too.
All right, brother. Thank you as always.
Thanks,
Look
pal.
forward to
Appreciate
Thursday.
it.
Tony D'Angelo. Make sure you check him out on the X for sure, Tony D'Angelo 7, and again on YouTube on Thursday. By the way, one of our good friends writes in, and I'll read his words of wisdom. He says, the Bible says drunkenness is a sin, but man calls it a disease. Homosexuality is also called a sin, but man calls it an alternative lifestyle. Illegal aliens are undocumented. Abortion supporters call themselves pro-choice rather than pro-death, which is the opposite of pro-life. Words are powerful, Lee. Most people don't notice the effect of those redefinitions, and the ones that they do usually do notice them when it's too late. Believe me, Tony D will be criticized for fat shaming those women.